2, 1.
Welcome to Made for More Living.
One small step for man.
With Johnny Jennings.
Kick the tires and light the fires, Big Daddy.
The fastest and most exciting hour of news, events, and real estate in Northern California.
And this is a fact that was proved.
Powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
Does everybody know what time it is?
Get ready. Here we go.
So in today's show, I have a very special guest, as I like to call her, my baby mama, my ex-girlfriend, my lovely wife of, how long have we been married now?
You don't remember? Come on.
Coming up on 12 years.
12 years. Yeah, in March. End of March.
Or, 2 months.
End of March, 12 years. Wow. And I just thought it would be fun to kind of go through, because a lot of people, like we do this with friends. Like we'll hang out in the back patio. We'll tell real estate stories. It is
interesting that you work together. I think it's an interesting dynamic when a husband and wife work together in the same industry for the same company. It's not easy to do. There's not a lot of people that do it.
Val, what do you think?
Talk about this today?
Val, what do you think? Is it easy to do?
I didn't realize we were going to talk about this.
Is this going to be a therapy session?
Whew, here we go.
Yeah.
Let's jump in.
Would you do it? Knowing what you know now, would you want to do it, or would you want to do something else?
Oh wow, she
hesitated. She hesitated. I think she wanted to do something else.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting because.
Would you agree, Val? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I like being a part of your life, and day to day, like all day, like we always know what's going on, right?
Always,
but
yeah.
I do think that the cons outweigh the pros, though.
Wow,
Yep.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
Because in my own life, I'm going through somewhat of a job transition.
Yeah, you're becoming a realtor, right?
Yeah. Well, we were talking about,
team.
If we could do it over again, what kind of regrets do you have? If you could do it over again, what would you do? And for me, it's just have more fun. Live in the moment. Stop stressing out over every little thing, whether or not something's going to work out or not. If I could go back and do it over again, I would just try to have more fun. I had a lot of fun, but I feel like
sounds like you're dying.
Yeah, I know.
Like I'm on my deathbed. What regrets do I have?
I have worked at this particular radio station for almost 25 years.
Yeah.
So that's a lifetime.
Yeah, looking back.
Yeah.
What would I have done differently, and then that's going to impact what it looks like moving forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally get that.
So going into my next assignment, my next job, I'm going to try to live in the moment, have more fun. I want to learn the lessons from the mistakes I made in the past.
Oh my gosh, I read this great quote, and I shared it with our real estate team this morning. Let me see if I can find it really quick. But and I can't say the guy's name. I really tried hard to look it up. It's French, but it's Michel du Montag. Anyways, the guy's credited with creating up with the essay format. Like he's a fairly famous dude. But what he said was, and sometimes this is miscredited to Mark Twain. Mark Twain has a different version of the same phrase.
Mark Twain gets credited with everything.
Yeah. Mark Twain said,
Mark Twain quote.
Trust nothing on the internet, Mark Twain. You know?
Oh my gosh.
Right.
But what Michelle said was, my life has been filled with terrible misfortune, most of which never happened.
Oh,
isn't that
love
good?
that. You're going to have to send me that. That's super, super good because it's true.
So true. And a lot of times we let ourselves get caught up in that. And even in the interpersonal marriage, real estate business stuff, it's like, you didn't send that email. Right. Well, you didn't tell me I needed to, and it's like, oh, by the way, I love you. Love you.
Right.
In the middle of bath time.
It is, in bath time and all this stuff. So kids do put an interesting wrinkle, but let's go back in time. Let's go back in time to the year.
It was the 80s.
To the 80s?
What?
No, that's a Bluey reference. That's a Bluey reference.
I'm
Your kids watch Bluey, right?
No.
Oh, come on. Get with it. Bluey is so good, not only for kids, but for adults. You guys will like it too. But the parents grew up in the 80s, so they always use that reference. It was the 80s. For you guys, I was born 88.
I was born 88. Valerie was not.
Okay.
Valary's
So you're
not.
talking about when you go back to your first days in real estate, we're talking about the early 2000s? Or, no, the 2010?
I was licensed 15, so we got started in real estate
Okay,
13.
so this is super recent.
It's super recent.
What?
So
10 years ago.
Yeah, 10 years ago.
Well, in the scheme of things.
Grand scheme of life.
Yeah, so we got started in real estate in 2013. We did some investing before we got licensed, and then got licensed. I was licensed in 2015. Were you licensed 15 as well?
February of 16.
16.
I mean,
okay.
compared to like Tom Daves, how long's he been doing real estate?
He doesn't like me to say, so I'll
But
just.
it's like
so I
50
won't.
years or something.
So I
like
won't
that.
say that he got licensed in 1977.
There you go.
Yeah.
See, come on. I mean, how 77 compared to 2015?
Yeah, we're babies. We're definitely. So here's the thing too that fires me up before we get into these stories. So believe it or not, we do have some fun stories to share with you. But if your real estate agent is old or has been doing this a long time, that does not necessarily mean they are good at their job.
Their
Just 'cause-
experience.
Maybe not. Just because you've been licensed for 20 years. Like I was on the phone last night with a gal. She's been licensed for 20 years. She's trying to help her friends. She let her license lapse because she's not doing any business. She doesn't want to pay the fees. She doesn't want to pay to hang her license at a brokerage. But yet she's trying to give her friends advice. And she said, Johnny, I don't know how to do the contracts. Like, I don't know how to. But
she's been
on
licensed
paper,
for 20
she's been
years.
licensed for 20 years. Twice as long as I've been licensed.
Yeah.
But so just to say, just because your real estate agent's been in it for a long time does not mean they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So just throw that disclaimer out. What I look for, if you're looking for a real estate agent and you are interviewing people, if I was interviewing somebody for like a family friend in, let's say they're moving to Texas, right? I would look for somebody that has a track record of success recently, that has 5-star reviews recently, that has an updated plan on how they can help their buyer purchase a home at a great deal right now. Like I want to hear the plan. I want to hear how this has helped out people. I want to see the evidence on the reviews. Same thing with sellers. So just because you've been licensed and you've been hanging it somewhere for 20 years does not mean that person is a good real estate agent.
Right.
That makes sense?
I hear what you're saying. I think some people get nervous too when they meet a new real estate agent or someone that's young.
Oh my gosh.
They feel like, well, this person obviously has not sold many homes. They are probably inexperienced. I want somebody experienced.
Yep. Your typical realtor sells like 98% of realtors sell fewer than 1.5 homes a month. That averages out to 18 homes a year. So
But
let's just say that's not a lot of homes. Yeah. That's not a lot of homes.
Right.
And so for Valary, how old were you when you were licensed?
23.
You were licensed at 23. Mm-hmm. She got her broker's license as quickly as quickly as the state would allow it because she was 25, 26 going into people's homes and they're like, "Are you even old enough to have a license?"
Yeah, they didn't.
Wait, how old were you?
I was 23 when I started, 25 when I got my broker's license, because I can't tell you how many times I was sitting in the living room with a seller and they're like, wait, why should I trust you with my biggest asset and this huge amount of equity? You know, you don't even know what you're doing. You're a baby, you know? Like,
I get it.
And so that's what I got my broker's license, was to go, hey, I'm a broker. I do know what I'm doing. I've sold hundreds of homes and I have my broker's license. You can trust me. And I feel like that did help a little bit with the new person.
The young
That's
person.
tough.
Yeah.
So what would your advice be for young people who feel like they have to prove to themselves, especially to older folks who are selling their home and they feel like, here comes this young whippersnapper. You know, how can I trust you? What would be your encouragement for young people that feel
Yeah, we have agents on our team that 18, 19, 21 years old and that have sold a number of homes. And so we give them the same advice that we used, right? Because we weren't 18, but we were relatively young. Mm-hmm. And what we end up telling them is leverage the team's resources.
Like that. That's smart.
So join a team and use their resources. Like if it means me going on an appointment with you, or you using, you know, this experience of the other team members to get deals done, you know, I think that's really important to have people around you that know what they're doing.
And you don't feel like that's a
when you're
burden on you to go out and do that and help them?
No, I think
what we're here for.
that's the team leader's job.
Yeah.
So for example, I recently went. An agent on our team. She's not like 19 years old, but she's like, Johnny, I'd like some help on this process. And she's like, can you go on a listing agreement or a listing appointment with me? It's going to be Friday morning, and they might be looking to sell 2 homes. I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to show 2 homes or go on 2 listing appointments with you. Let's do this. She goes, okay, great. I set the appointment for 9:30. By the way, and she paused. They're in Modesto. And so that's like, for people listening, that's like an hour and a half, 2 hour, one-way drive.
One way, yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, let's lead with that next time so I can allocate my time appropriately.
Absolutely, I'm in.
I'm
Let's
in,
do
100%.
it.
I'm there. But we went down, we conducted the appointment, and we got both listings signed. You know, and
Nice.
if she had done that on her own, she would have been less likely. They would have been less confident in her abilities because she's maybe not familiar with the area. She doesn't have a track record of success. But then you sit down with a broker like myself and her. It's like, hey, you get me and this agent.
Yeah, love that.
And so that's how we would recommend.
I think that's a
overcome it.
key ingredient to success in any industry is leveraging team, leveraging experiencing, leveraging information. Don't try to do it all on your own.
Absolutely not. Do not try to do it all on your own. Talking about looking back, like your 25 years with the fish and looking back, my 10 years looking back in real estate, I would have wished I would have leveraged people and asked for help earlier rather than try to figure it out myself.
Yeah.
I wasted a lot of time and money figuring it out on myself.
Why was that? Why?
Pride. I would say a lot
yeah.
of pride. Pride's a big one, and honestly, like a lack of resources. I didn't think I had the ability to ask for help. I thought it would cost more than it really did.
So when you bring on new team members, you make sure you emphasize, hey, it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to tap into the resources that we have.
Absolutely.
And it's, yeah, go ahead.
I'm mad. Like, I'm not, maybe mad's the wrong word. I'm frustrated if they're not.
Yeah.
So if somebody is asking questions, if they're constantly saying, hey, what about this? What about this? How do I do this? That means they're actively engaged and they're trying to build their business.
Yeah.
If I never hear from you and you're a brand new agent, you don't know what you're doing. So what is it you're doing? Because I don't know. Because you're not reaching out at all. So what we always say is, do not suffer in silence. Don't suffer in silence. Let me know how we can help you. We have admin staff that's here to help you. We have an appointment setter department that's here to help you. We have people in-house that are here to help you. We have an amazing broker support system that's here to help you. But if you don't ask for help, we won't know that you're struggling. So that's what we tell new agents.
Show up.
Yeah, show up. So, okay, this is a fun story. We'll segue a little bit on here. Valary, so you know Brent Gove. For those of you listening, Brent Gove, he's a legend in the industry, sold thousands of homes, was on a radio show for a long time.
He was the first one to really cross over to EXP.
He was
really promote.
Pivotal in the growth of EXP and how
Now you see it everywhere, but he was one of the first. You know?
You've heard of
this EXP? What does that even stand for?
You've heard like the Trump bump before, like the stock market went up because of Trump. Well, if you look at at EXP's growth chart, you can see when Brent Gove joined, because then all of a sudden it spikes up,
Right.
And anyways, so Valary, he was talking about, hey, if you want to be successful in real estate, you have to model people who are successful. Be like Tom Daves, be like Valary Jennings. Go up and talk to them, ask them, and see what it is they're doing that helps them be so successful.
Sure.
And so a man walked up to Valary after that meeting and was like, what did he say, Val? Do you remember?
Yeah, he's just like, what do you need to do to be successful? Like, he just asked the question, right? And I said, don't say no.
And what did you mean by that?
So it sounds kind of dramatic, I guess, but it's really like taking any opportunity that's been given to you, because in this business you have to create opportunities, but there's also opportunities that you have that maybe don't look super desirable. So it's not like, oh, I have this beautiful $1 million open house down the street from where I live, super convenient, I'm going to get all these buyers to walk in, right? That's unfortunately not reality of how all of your open houses are going to be.
Yeah.
Sometimes it means driving to Elk Grove or driving to Folsom and, sitting in those markets that may not be right here in your backyard and holding houses open there, because there's plenty of buyers that walk through open houses in any market, right? And it's just being open to those opportunities, or if it's showing a property in a city that you've never been to, or things like that, where it's just getting those experiences under your belt. And all of those are a little bit inconvenient sometimes. I mean, it's like going to work, right?
It's never convenient when it comes up, when an opportunity arrives. Very rarely is it on a weekend that you're available. Is it very rarely in the morning or in a nighttime where you're like, oh, I have nothing else going on that like you have to shuffle your schedule around. Yeah. But I was kind of there for this exchange between her and this other person, and you could just see this person just became deflated.
Yeah.
Like they were hoping for
suck the wind out of his sails.
They were hoping for a silver bullet moment where it's like, okay, what's the secret sauce? And it's like, the secret sauce is work.
And
but
that's a good segue into how I got my first listing,
which we'll touch on. We'll touch on when we come back from the break.
Okay.
Okay, let's try and figure this out together. So you want to sell your home. Maybe you want to move out of state. Maybe you're retiring and you want to downsize. You want the most money possible for your home, but you want to sell it fast. Did you know that our friend Johnny Jennings with Made for More Realty, he can get you at least 3 cash offers. And again, it's not just him. He's got an entire team. They can get you at least 3 cash offers on your home in as-is condition. What does that mean? That means no showings, no open houses, nobody coming through your home and looking at your personal stuff, no need to do organizing and cleaning, no need to do those costly home repairs. Just 3 cash offers guaranteed on your home in as-is condition. How do you know Johnny Jennings can do it? How do you know you can trust this team? Well, one, they've been voted #1 team in Roseville for the past 3 years. Number 2, they have almost 1,000 5-star Google reviews. And they sell homes, it's proven, 27% faster than everyone else on the market. They sell them for a higher purchase price. So if you're curious, what can Johnny Jennings do for us when it comes to selling our home? Reach out, just Google Johnny Jennings with Made for More Realty and get more for your home.
This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
So we're back in the studio with Valary Jennings, love of my life, who apparently no longer wants to work together, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. But looking back, we've been doing this now 10 years, and we were talking about how Valary always shows up. She's always there for her clients. She's always there for the agents. She doesn't say no. And that actually is how you got your first listing, right? Mm-hmm. Mind telling the story?
Yeah, so it was, I had recently gotten licensed at this point, and I wasn't assigned floor time that day because it was 4th of July.
What do you mean by floor time?
Yeah, floor time's old school.
Yeah, sorry, this is old school. But so not before the internet, but before it started to be like the main way that people looked at houses, there was real estate offices you could walk into and say, hey, realtor, I need some help finding a house, right? And so I was sitting there waiting for somebody to walk in or call.
That's what floor time was. You were assigned
you
to
were in there in the office waiting for someone to come in.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah. So
or they'd call and you'd answer the phone like the business line.
So people would, unrepresented sellers and buyers would call in or walk in and say, hey, I need some help with my real estate situation. And then you're assigned to floor time, so that's your person that you get to work with. So anyways, I'm sitting there and...
What day is it?
It's 4th of July, so obviously the office was...
You were working on the 4th of July?
It wasn't officially open, but Johnny was at work at a different job.
Yeah, I was in the oil fields, right?
Yeah, in the oil
4th
fields.
of July? They didn't give you the day off?
The oil
No.
fields 365, man.
Oh, wow.
That
So he's
oil-
out there getting
yeah.
overtime, and I'm like, okay, that's great. I'm trying to figure out what to do with my day because
Sure.
there's nobody to hang out with, and I'm like, well, I'll just go sit in the real estate office and get some stuff done. And lo and behold, this guy calls and he's like, hey, I'm getting a divorce. I need to sell my house ASAP. And I was like, okay, sure, I can do that. And so,
Wow.
anyways, one thing led to another. That was my very first listing.
Yep.
And
you sold it.
I
They
did.
got divorced?
Yep. I achieved his real estate goal for him.
That's
you know.
cool.
So
But what was the sales price, sweetheart?
yeah, it was a duplex. So I sold both sides. It was a duplex property sold for $54,000.
54.
Yes.
And so what year
What
was
year
this?
was that?
Well, this was
16?
16. Yeah, 2016.
2016. Where was it at?
Kalinga.
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 And the property was, it was rough, but also, properties there.
It was really rough.
Yeah.
It was
we did
like,
a lot of work to get it through financing. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
So what's your lesson
first,
from that? What did you take away from that?
So the lesson is show up. Like a lot of people, unfortunately, it's hard when you're self-employed to get the motivation to do something, right? I was sitting in there getting some work done on 4th of July in the morning, and a lot of people would be like, no, I'm going to, go do something fun and take the day off because it's 4th of July. And not to say I didn't have fun later in the day, but I got some work done and I showed up, and that's how you get deals
I
done.
bet you were
So.
super excited.
Oh
right?
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And so that was your first. That was your first sale then, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So Valary's first sale was a listing, and she's been listing homes ever since. My first sale, we're not allowed
Was
to
it
talk
also in
about.
Kalinga?
We're not allowed to talk about.
Your first listing though.
What was my first listing? Do you remember? I don't know what. Oh no, that's also really sad. So my first listing, 272 Hoover Street, did not sell.
272 Hoover Street,
Really
Kalinga,
sad.
California.
Kalinga, California, 93210.
For
Wait,
those
hold on.
listening that don't know, we started our real estate career in Kalinga. That's
Yeah.
why we have all these stories.
Kalinga.
And for people
Yeah.
who've never heard of Kalinga, they have no idea where it's at. You usually smell it on your way down 99, or is it 5?
Five.
5, yeah.
So a Harris Ranch, if you've cruised past Harris Ranch, that's Kalinga's
Everyone's
just,
got to come from somewhere.
just right there. I loved it. I was born and raised there. I have no regrets. I am.
And they just got a major award of like the best mascot, right? Best
Yeah.
high school
Yeah.
mascot.
Oscar the
That's
Horn
something to be
Toad.
proud of.
Oscar
The
the
Horn
Horn Toad, best high school
Oscar the
mascot.
Horn Toad.
Yeah.
The only thing worse than that is the Santa Cruz Slug.
That is pretty
That's
bad.
horrible.
Yeah.
Horn Toad
At
is.
least the
I think horn
horn
toad's
toads
cool.
look cool. They
I think
are
it's cool.
cool.
What's a horn toad?
It's like a
Google it,
lizard
see.
with horns.
Yeah, they're all spiky.
Oh, it does have a.
They look
oh,
really
those
cool.
are- it kind of looks like a lizard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More than a toad.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, we digress. Tell us about the listing.
Oh, I didn't sell. 272 Hoover Street did not
Oh,
sell.
you didn't sell it.
No.
One of the
How
few
long was
homes
it on-
that Johnny has unsuccessfully.
Yeah.
How long was it on the market?
I don't know, months. But
It was probably a year.
A
at
year?
least.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why couldn't it sell? Is it just the area?
no, it was the price. So here's the thing: as long as our home is properly marketed, this is real estate. It is not rocket science. When price and condition align, homes sell. So if you want to get a premium on your home and it's not selling, well then let's improve the condition. So that way it aligns with the price. So maybe renovate the kitchen, do the floors, the bathrooms, maybe make some repairs, some deferred maintenance. When condition and price align, a home sells. And this home, unfortunately, was just overpriced.
So, did you have those conversations with him and say, "Hey,
It's been years now. I'm pretty sure I did, but I think they needed a certain number in order to make the sale happen.
oh,
Yeah. So
interesting." So it's either reach this number or we're not selling.
yeah, we can't
We
sell.
can't.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that was my first listing did not go as well as Valary's first, but I did have a fantastic first, like air quotes, luxury. Right. Again, this is in Kalinga.
What is considered luxury?
Well, I mean, we thought it.
We thought it was luxury.
I
So
mean,
I
it
guess
was
it's
luxury
just in the eye of the seller
Well, it's
or the broker.
the price point, the location,
in the market, right?
And the
it
market,
was,
yeah.
It was probably the nicest home on the market in Kalinga at that time.
in Kalinga.
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah, it was a beautiful home, updated pool, waterfalls.
Wow.
Like hardwood floors, the whole 9 yards.
Updated
right?
kitchens, yeah.
Yeah, and so that was a beautiful home. That was good job, Johnny.
Beautiful home. We got it sold. It was actually my boss in the oil fields. He trusted me
Oh, nice.
to list his house.
He was retiring, moving.
He's
out of
retiring,
state.
moving out of state.
Yeah.
And, the story we've heard many times since then. But what did it end up selling for?
$296,000.
$296,000.
Above what you listed it for?
I can't remember, but
No,
it was
that
like.
was like the total sales price.
But I'm just saying for $296,000 you got a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house with
This
a
is what
pool,
year?
water feature. 2017,
Probably
17 maybe,
maybe,
16,
yeah.
17, somewhere around there.
So Kalinga, you can get a good deal, huh?
I mean, the prices have gone up since then.
They've gone up since then. Yeah.
But it's an incredibly affordable market. So
anyways, those are some of our firsts in Kalinga. And Valary and I moved up here in January of 2018. Didn't know anybody. We were with a different brokerage than the brokerage we are with now. And Valary hit the ground running, though. Valary is a rock star. She works hard. And you actually had a listing you had the first sale between the two of us up here.
yeah. So got that listing in Rancho Cordova.
Do you remember roughly what month? We moved up in January.
Well, I know exactly when it was. It was like at the end of January when I got that listing.
Boom. So we're
Because
not
my
even up here for a
first-
month. Because like the first couple weeks we were
How'd
in
you get
training.
that listing? Was it just another floor time situation?
Do you want to tell the story of how we got listings?
No, we don't have to go into the details. It was a company generated lead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter, I went on the appointment, got the listing, And the first open house we had was on Super Bowl Sunday. So it was, obviously at the very beginning of February.
By the way, we are not planning like Valary doesn't just work on like holidays. Like this is not the theme of the show.
I don't care who's playing. It was the Eagles who are playing this year against the New England Patriots, and the Eagles won.
Oh gosh.
So there you go. Maybe you guys should do some open houses this year. You never know what could come
next weekend.
But that's the thing, just showing up, not saying no.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the moral of the story ultimately is, I just so happened that I was working on all these holidays, but because I showed up, had a great open house, lots of traffic came through. Right? No.
They were there still?
No, the owners. It was their home. It was their home, but they had stepped out for the open house.
Oh, on Super Bowl Sunday. Wow.
Yeah, they went to a friend's house to have Super Bowl.
Gotcha.
And I did the open house in the morning, closed it up by 2. Game starts at 3 usually, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so it ended up being a great, very busy open house. Sold it the first weekend on the market.
Oh,
and
good for you. That's so awesome.
But again, it's showing up. Most people would be like, I'm not doing a Super Bowl open house. Like, I'd rather go hang out with my friends and watch the game.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Interesting. But I bet there is a lot of traffic on Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I think that would probably be a good day to do an open house, huh?
I'd show up. Yeah. I don't care about football.
Yeah, but she's right. The game doesn't start till 3, and people are out, going to the store,
milling around,
supplies,
picking up. Yeah, that's true.
They're free. A lot of people don't make plans on Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah.
So they've got usually the morning or unless you're going to church or whatever.
Yeah.
But they've got people have more free time.
I wanted to go to church. I really wanted to go to church. Valary wanted to hold the open house. The heathen over there.
Just such a great sign guy. I got so many compliments.
Were you out there with the sign? Hold on a second.
Not only with the sign, I had like one of those feather flags, those big flags.
And you were outside.
And I was outside at a major intersection.
On the corner of like Zinfandel,
that's
right there on that's the cross street.
Yeah, so you're welcome.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
So that's why I had so many people come to my open house.
They're like, that guy's crazy,
waving a big old flag.
I'm waving and I'm pointing at people and they're honking.
Cool.
We were having fun.
See, I like that.
Yeah. But anyways, that was your first sale. My first sale when we moved up in here was in the thriving metropolis of Galt.
Really?
Galt, and that was a rough one. So this one backed up not only to a train track. So it was like literally there's this huge cinder block wall.
Close to public transportation.
Yeah, it had a huge like 13, 15-foot wall, a cinder block wall to help dampen the sound. But it was
the train.
But the house would shake when the train went by.
You don't hear anything, you just feel it.
Yeah. And but on the other side of the train tracks was a cemetery. And so like nobody wanted this house because it was between the train tracks and the cemetery. So we ended up selling it. And so sellers, if you're listening to the show, or buyers, if you're listening to the show, or agents, if something is considered part of the home, you're not allowed to take it when the house sells.
Oh, you've told me this story, right?
Right, and it's about the fountain.
Yeah.
And so what the sellers did was they were pissed off about something, so they took the fountain, sold it to the next door neighbor. The new buyers come in, they're like, "Where's the fountain?" They look over to the neighbor's yard, and you can see the fountain poking out.
There it is.
And there's their fountain in the neighbor's yard. But that was that was my first sale in Galt.
And then you got it back though, right?
No.
Wait, were you the seller's rep?
I represented the seller. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So the seller sold the fountain to the neighbors?
Yeah.
Well, did you guys you had to do something?
So this is a really good point. Mm-hmm. Really good point.
Yeah.
What a real estate agent's technical job is to facilitate the transaction. Okay? That is it. Transaction closes, we are not a part of this. Like, we are not legally allowed to negotiate between the buyers and sellers. Our license does not allow us to do that. And so if the buyer and seller now want to figure this fountain situation out, it's up to them to figure it out.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
what
so
if
we
there's
are not
an issue then?
It's up to the buyer and seller to then figure it out. We are not allowed.
Whether or not they have to go to attorneys.
So typically,
you don't get involved in that.
Typically, it goes to mediation arbitration first. And then if they can't come to an agreement, then, it escalates. And then if it escalates, typically the person that's mad ropes everybody in. So I've never been sued, but I know people who have. And so like, let's take a different example. Let's say a house sold and the seller didn't disclose something.
Yeah, this is a common one, the non-disclosure. So sellers that are listening, disclose everything.
Disclose. So like the seller didn't disclose that every winter the garage was prone to flooding. Maybe not every winter it would flood, but most winters it would flood because of negative grading and just how the water would flow off of the property and typically flow into the garage. The seller didn't disclose. The agent didn't know. The agent doesn't live there, right?
Sure.
The inspection, it wasn't flooded when the inspection company came by, so they don't know that it's flooded. The buyer's agent doesn't know because, again, they don't live there. Mm-hmm. It's up to the seller to disclose that. And the seller didn't disclose that. And the buyer moves in. All of a sudden, she's getting all these flooding issues. First winter, flooding issues. Why is this not disclosed? She probably had somebody come out and go, hey, how do you fix it? They're like, oh, gosh, this is a real problem. This isn't new. This is based off the grading. This is based off of the drainage.
Or the neighbor, they're talking to the neighbor, and the neighbor's like, oh, yeah, it happens to all of our garages every winter.
Yeah, that's the only way you could
seller
prove
of this house knew.
They could deny it. Well, that's never happened to us before.
Well, then they realized, oh, my gosh, in looking at the photos, you can go back sometimes and see, oh my gosh, there was watermarks pre-existing in the garage in the photos. It just didn't catch it. And so the seller didn't disclose, but now the listing agent is roped into a lawsuit. The buyer's agent is roped into a lawsuit. The home inspection is roped into a lawsuit. The only person that did anything illegal is the seller, but everybody else is now a part of this transaction.
Because that's what the attorneys will do. So they'll just let's get everybody involved. Exactly. Come on in.
Yeah. And so, so if you are, so as far as that fountain situation goes, they must have figured it out because, I didn't get roped into anything.
Right, unless lawyers get involved and you're subpoenaed or something like that.
Well, and the fountain probably wasn't worth a ton of money, and it's like legal fees versus buying a new fountain. Right. Which one's more expensive?
Yeah. Well, at that point. I had a family, some friends of ours, they purchased a new home. And the seller said they would leave the washer and dryer. That was part of the agreement.
Yeah. And
then they go to look at the house, and the sellers are moving out, and they're hauling the washer and dryer out. And they're like, no, those washers and dryers are ours. And I think it was the fridge, too. And the seller said, no, we're not leaving that. And so it had to go through some different processes. And eventually the seller had to buy new appliances.
Yeah. Well, that's in the contract.
Buyer. Well, yeah. And that's... Yeah. So again, that you can get involved, especially if it's like a final walkthrough situation where it's like it hasn't closed escrow yet, and the buyers are like, as a listing agent, I would be like, hey guys, you need to bring those back. Those are part of the contract. You can't just take them. That's something you have to leave for the buyers, right? And they, if they don't, then that's on them, and they're the ones legally responsible for not leaving them.
That's a really good point. When we come back, this is something that Valary is very passionate about, and that is including personal property with a real estate transaction. Back after this.
So one of our listeners, a nice couple in the Folsom area, they wanted to sell their home and move out of state. They were retiring. But in order to retire, to get the property that they had dreamed of, they needed a certain price for their home in Folsom. Who did they reach out to? Of course, the best. That's Johnny Jennings and his entire team at Made for More Realty. They were able to get this couple a great offer on their home, actually multiple offers above what they even listed it for, and in a record time for that neighborhood. And that's what happens when you work with not just Johnny Jennings, but the entire team, Valary and everyone at Made for More Realty. Hey, if you're curious, what do other folks have to say about Johnny Jennings and the team at Made for More Realty? Go on Google. Check them out. They've got almost 1,000 five-star Google reviews. You'll find out that they were voted #1 team in Roseville for the past 3 years. You'll find out that it's proven they sell homes 27% faster than everyone else and for more money than everyone else in your neighborhood. So if you're curious, what kind of offers can I get in my home? In fact, if you're curious how you can get at least 3 guaranteed cash offers on your home in as-is condition, no need to do costly home repairs, no need to do stagings or showings or get your home organized and clean, then finally do something now. Don't wait. It's time. Reach out to Johnny Jennings and the Tom Daves team at Made for More Realty, or you can go to madeformoreliving.com, madeformoreliving.com, and do what so many of our listeners have done and trust the selling of their home to Johnny Jennings and his team at Made for More Realty. Or if you're looking to buy a home, they can help you with that as well. They're going to find you a great deal. Again, just Google Johnny Jennings and Made for More Realty or madeformoreliving.com.
This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
So we are back in the studio with Miss Valary Jennings, my lovely wife, and we are talking about personal property in real estate transactions. Valary, if you're listening, Valary rolled her eyes and she is not excited about this topic. She's like, why do I have to talk about all the not fun stuff?
How would you define personal property?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yes, good idea to start with the definition. So it's anything that's not affixed to the house or part of the property. So like a tree that is buried in the ground out in the front yard or the backyard, that's part of the property.
What about a potted plant?
That is personal property.
A jacuzzi?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless it's like in the ground. If it's like one of those like pool spa combos.
Even if it's wired into the house?
Yeah. Personal property.
Interesting.
That's why there's a box for that to be checked on the RPA.
She's nodding her head.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
potted plants. What about potted plants?
Personal property. Even if they're like sitting on a drip system that you've installed and plugged into the house. The drip system is part of the house. The potted plant is not. Okay.
What about chandeliers?
Part of the house. Yeah. It's installed. It's
what about
like
TVs?
not part of the house.
No.
Well, what about the mounting brackets?
Part of the house.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
See, it gets
it's very
nuanced,
convoluted.
Yeah.
But like if you've installed a reverse osmosis system in your water, like to help with if you've got rough well water or something, right? That's part of the house. You've installed it into the water system. You can't just pull out your reverse osmosis and take it with you when you leave. Mm-hmm. So, but where this gets interesting is where the seller may want to leave behind some furniture, like, for example, a huge area rug that takes over this entire living room, and it was made custom for that living room to cover the floor, right? Well, the buyer's like, great, I'd love to keep the rug because it works perfectly in this house, and I don't want to have to buy a new one. The seller doesn't want the rug either, but now we're stuck with what's the value of that? And I become a furniture salesman, which is not my job.
Yeah.
I'm not here to negotiate the sales price of a rug. Okay. So this is why I always like to keep personal property out of the deal, because we're here to negotiate on the sale of the house. Anything that's structurally related to the home, that's what the realtor is there to negotiate. So if you want the rug, ask the seller directly.
And here's why. So if you're thinking, like, oh, that's kind of snarky. That's not nice why doesn't Valary just help them out?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is, like, all of a sudden, what you think is it's just a rug. It's not a big deal. All of a sudden, the personal property becomes a big deal. You're talking about a $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 house, and now we're arguing over a $2,000 rug, and this is going to make or break the transaction. Like, let's keep your eye on the prize. Do you want the house? Do you not want the house?
Right.
The rug wasn't even part of this conversation until now, 15 days into it, when the seller offered it up.
And what if the house needed a new roof, right? So now you're dealing with potentially $15,000 repair that the house needs, and you go to the seller and say, well, I'll give you $1,000 for your $2,000 rug, and I also want a $15,000 credit for the new roof. So now you've muddied the waters, because as a buyer's agent has to go to the seller and try to sell both of those things, and the seller is going to be like, no, I'm not selling you the rug for 50% of what it's worth, and yeah, forget it. I'm not giving you a new roof either, because you've made me mad. Yeah. And so it's like you could have had the house with a brand new roof if you hadn't been so tied up about the rug. This it's just, I see it end this way every single time.
This isn't hypothetical, by the way. This isn't like fiction. This isn't like maybe this might happen. This is what happens, I would say 90% of the time, that personal property gets involved.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so does that answer your question, Matt, about like why not to include personal property in the conversation?
Why do sellers feel like they have to include personal property?
Well,
Seems like a given. No, you got to get rid of everything.
Sometimes they don't know. They don't know what's included, what's not included. Like, for example.
Well, if I was their agent, I would say, okay, just to let you know, this is personal property, and if you're selling the house, we're not going to do any negotiating. It's going with the house. And the price is all inclusive. You either take this or leave it, but the price is all inclusive. We're not doing any negotiations.
So how I typically handle it with sellers, so how Valary and I work is I'll typically meet them first. We'll go through the process, and then introduce Valary, and we're working together on the listing. And so when I meet with sellers, they're like, well, I'd be willing to throw in my patio furniture. I'd be willing to throw in the washer and dryer. And they're listing off all these things. Yeah. And they tell me it's because we're moving across the country. We really don't want to move it.
It's true.
So if it would help, we'll include it. And I say, great. Appreciate that. Let's not include it in the marketing remarks, the public marketing remarks. And what we can do is we can hold that back as a negotiation tool. So then that way, if they're like, hey, I want all these repairs, or hey, I want you to come down on the price, or, okay, great. Now let's say, hey, we'll structure the deal, and then we'll include those items to sweeten the pot.
Yeah, right. But so again, I hear what Valary's saying is we don't want to go through all those extra negotiations. For me, I'd be like Valary. It's like it's either all or nothing. We're let's decide right now. We're not going to go into the furniture is included, but we don't want the appliances, or maybe we want the appliances, but we don't want that particular chair. I'd be like,
every time, though,
let's make this simple. It's either you want include it or don't include it.
Every time I have that conversation, it never comes up again. Because then they realize that the numbers change. The numbers aren't maybe what they expected. Maybe it's higher. Maybe it's lower. Maybe all of a sudden there's a family member that wants the washer and dryer, and it never comes up again.
Yeah.
Or
the buyer comes in and makes a low offer that's $10,000 low, and they want your $2,000 washer and dryer. Then now it's a good thing that we didn't include the washer and dryer, because then you could sell them and be $200 or $2,000 ahead, and still be able to make it work with their lower offer.
But it always messes up. I mean, the Valary sold, where was it in Granite Bay that you sold one not too long ago?
Los Lagos.
So she sold one. The buyer wanted everything. Like they wanted everything, and it turned into a huge point of contention, right?
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Because the sellers were like, well, we want to give you everything, but we think it's worth, say for example, $20,000, right? And she's like, well, I was only prepared to give you $8,000 for all of it. Like, it's not that nice, or it's not really what my taste is, right?
And the seller always thinks it's worth more than what the buyer does.
Yeah,
right?
And then the seller's like, well, I might as well just sell it then and make more money selling it to someone else. And so it's just this whole back and forth thing. And
the sellers are always like, this is what I paid for it. And the buyer's like, well, I could get it on Facebook Marketplace for much cheaper.
Yeah. See, this is why I'm not in real estate. I couldn't tolerate that kind of back and forth. I'd be like,
it's not my favorite thing either. That's why I pass it off to Val. I'm like, Val, Val, can you help me out with this?
I'd be like, okay, we're either including everything and this is the price or not. We're not going back and forth on all the knickknacks and different things.
And it really doesn't benefit anybody. Let's just focus.
If you want to do a yard sale, why don't you have a yard sale after the home is sold, and then you guys can negotiate on what you want to pay for each item at the yard sale.
Yard sale, estate sale.
Yeah.
Just don't worry about it.
Figure it out then.
Yeah.
If the buyer wants to buy this and then wants this included, okay, then this is what it is. But we're not going to do all this back and forth. Just let's establish it from the get-go, so we don't have to.
It's way cleaner that way.
That's why I'm not good at that.
That's why you're now a political talk show host.
Right, there you go.
You don't like controversy. So when we come back, we're going to be talking about an incredible story that Valary has. It includes a rickety bridge and marijuana.
Okay, let's try and figure this out together. So you want to sell your home. Maybe you want to move out of state. Maybe you're retiring and you want to downsize. You want the most money possible for your home, but you want to sell it fast. Did you know that our friend Johnny Jennings with Made for More Realty, he can get you at least 3 cash offers. And again, it's not just him. He's got an entire team. They can get you at least 3 cash offers on your home in as-is condition. What does that mean? That means no showings, no open houses, nobody coming through your home and looking at your personal stuff, no need to do organizing and cleaning, no need to do those costly home repairs. Just 3 Cash offers guaranteed on your home in as-is condition. How do you know Johnny Jennings can do it? How do you know you can trust this team? Well, one, they've been voted number one team in Roseville for the past 3 years. Number two, they have almost 1,000 five-star Google reviews. And they sell homes, it's proven, 27% faster than everyone else on the market. They sell them for a higher purchase price. So if you're curious, what can Johnny Jennings do for us when it comes to selling our home? Reach out, just Google Johnny Jennings with Made for More Realty and get more for your home.
This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
So I am so excited to hear this story from Valary. She said it has something to do with a bridge and weed, and I do not remember this story.
Can you say weed on the radio?
Can you say weed? Can you say Mary
so
Jane?
You never heard this story?
I'm pretty sure I've heard. I know the bridge part, but I don't remember the weed part. So Valary, what happened?
So I'm going on a listing appointment, right? And so
what year is this? Because this is important to know. What year is this?
This is probably 2018.
Okay, so
Yeah.
marijuana was legal in California at the time?
I think it was
legal?
still. I think it was still like
illegal.
the 5 plants, for personal use or whatever.
Oh, gotcha.
I don't
Okay.
know what the law was at
Okay.
that point. I didn't do a lot of marijuana sales.
California legalized medical cannabis in 1996 and recreational cannabis in 2016.
So,
so
2016.
recreational,
So it
okay.
was legal.
I think there was some limit on the plants.
Sure,
though.
limit
Yeah.
on how many you can
Yeah.
have. Okay.
Anyways, so again, going back to what we were talking about earlier about just show up. I'm going out to this listing appointment out in the middle of nowhere. I've never been out there, like nowhere land Placerville, right? And so I'm driving. I'm going across this bridge. Well, I come up to this bridge, and it's like very clearly a one-way bridge, and you look down over the edge, and it is like the steepest drop I've ever seen, other than like the Forest Hill Bridge, which, that one's way steeper. But there's like this rushing river at the bottom of it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. There's no
I think
way.
you called me like, Johnny, should I go over the bridge?
On the bridge, though, right? There was rails.
There was rails, but it was like wooden. It was wooden, rickety, and a one-way. So
What
I'm like,
town
if
is
any
this in? Somewhere in Placerville?
Yeah, I think like Somerset area. Anyway, so I'm literally calling Johnny. I'm like, pray with me right now because I think this is the end. Like, can you just be on the phone with me?
I'm like, Valary, do you have to go this way? And she's like, yes, I have to go this way.
There's
I'm like,
literally, Google has no other way to get out to this property. And anyways,
I was getting fired up just thinking about this bridge.
yeah, I'm like, because the thing is, like, everybody has a problem with this bridge. Like, the people that live out there, they're like, yeah, they've been telling us they're going to build a new bridge for many years, but they haven't.
Hey,
so
maybe with Trump.
Maybe.
Come on, Trump.
Anyway, so this bridge does not look like it will hold my car. I'm like thinking, can I just park my car here and then like walk across? No, I can't make it all the way to the house if I'm walking.
Is it this bridge with the white railing or a different one?
Yeah, the Mosquito Road Bridge. Yeah.
Okay, the Mosquito
yeah.
Road Bridge. It looks
Yes.
very nice. It has a lot of charm. It must have been improved since you drove on it.
They're looking at it right
Okay,
now.
but if you look down over the edge,
Well, don't do that. Just focus on what's ahead.
it's
of
a
you.
one-way.
It is a one-way
wooden
bridge. But
Okay.
it looks pretty sturdy.
Anyways, from now that I'm more familiar with the area,
I agree with you, Matt. But in the moment, she was freaking out.
Sure.
Anyways, you guys, I'm new to this area. At this point in 2018, I'm like, I've never been here before. I don't know what to expect. Now I would feel fine driving across
Sure.
it.
Okay.
So, anyways, I make it across finally after.
She sat there for like 15 minutes.
I did.
I had
I
a
did.
ton of missed calls.
Was there not cars behind you? Like, come on, lady, go.
It's not really that populated out
Okay.
there. So, yeah, I think that's what ended up pushing me across because this PG&E guy came up behind me and he was like clearly trying to get through. So, anyways, I go across, show up to the house, taking a tour around. The family's really nice. Everybody's super friendly. But I'm going through my checklist of like all the things to look at and take notes on. And I was like, okay, well, the one thing we didn't see was, do you guys have indoor laundry? And they're like, well, it's not inside the house, it's in the garage. Are you sure you want to see it? And I was like,
Oh man,
are you
I love
I
that.
guess
you want
so?
to see it?
And they're
I would
like, yeah.
pause for a second
Yeah.
and think, wait a second, maybe not.
What's up with this laundry situation?
And I was like, I I guess so.
Are you sure you want to see
sure?
it?
Question
What?
mark?
You have to say yes at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah,
you can't like say no. I
absolutely.
don't want to see part of your house.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I have to see what this laundry situation
Hold on,
is.
let me call my husband and be on the phone.
Let me
at the
call him
same
again.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Walk with me.
Mind you, there has not been any other indication that this situation is going on in the garage. So he opens the door and there's like a full growing operation set up in there. Like there's all
marijuana plants.
Yes, yeah. So there's all the lights up on top, all these plants plugged into their little growing stations. The laundry is not there. I don't know where they do their
Where's the washer and dryer?
the hookups are there, but the washer and dryer were not there. They'd taken out like all the garage door motors, so they'd fully converted the garage into just
Are you sure you want to see
there was like
it?
hundreds of plants in there. I think. I don't know that much about it. So
that's kind of scary because then it's like, are you sure you want to see this? Do you want to say goodbye to your husband? Because those can be scary situations.
Can you imagine doing an open house there on Super Bowl Sunday? That'd be awesome.
Well, the thing is, that
anyways.
was for them. That was a selling point because they were like, "So, are you okay with like adding this to the listing and making it like because that out there, this is like something that people do, right?
Okay.
And so having that operation already set up there and all the stuff and like it probably cost them thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars
You
to
got to
put all
have
that
a
in there.
really unique buyer that would want to set up like that.
Yep.
Yeah, but a lot of the neighbors, everybody, it's common in some of the more rural areas where that's what people do. So, anyways, did not get the listing.
I think you spoke to your broker about it, and the broker is like,
Yeah, the broker is like, "Do you really want to do that, Valerie?" And I'm like, "I guess probably not." So I just
and
kinda
the,
went-
and the
turned it down.
legality around it. So it wasn't permitted. There were a lot of issues with how they had the whole thing set up.
You could get in a lot of trouble. You don't want to get in a risky
Well, and if-
situation like that.
using it as a selling point, it's almost like more of a business deal rather than just a residential property. So
Yeah,
anyways,
correct.
yeah,
that's a
that's-
good point.
yeah,
So you said no.
yeah.
They didn't say no.
Yeah.
Are you sure you want to see it? Oh my gosh. That's like a line from like almost every horror movie. Are you sure you want to go in there?
I couldn't say no though.
Yeah. Where's my stun gun? So we'll end the show with a self-deprecating story really quick. Valerie and I are obviously not from the area. I'm from the thriving metropolis of Kalinga, and Valerie's from Bakersfield. So we moved up here. We're taking listings. We're working with people, and I get this listing in a town that I've never been in before. And so I go, I do the whole walkthrough, everything, and then they ask me a question. Have you ever sold a house before in our city? And I said, no. I was honest with them. I said, no, I have not. But you know what? With our marketing, I'm sure I can sell any house in Ripon. And they're like, Ripon? Ripon? And I was like, what? And they're like, it's called Rippin', Johnny.
Wow.
It's called Rippin'.
And goodbye.
Yep. No, I ended up getting the listing.
Oh, you
I
did?
sold the house, and since we've sold maybe, I don't know, a dozen homes in that
Ripon?
community.
Referrals
In
from
Ripon.
that same
Yeah,
person.
From that same person. They thought we did a great job. I couldn't say Rippin', but I could sell a house.
Ripon.
So thanks for being on the show, gorgeous.
Thanks for having me.